KR5HXW taking it in. UTH is downtown Dallas, Texas, about 10 meters from the Reunion Tower.
Saturday, April 29th, 8:52 p.m. Saturday, April 29th, 8:53 p.m.
GeekNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m. W5FC.
Hello.
In 3 minutes, Skynet takes over the airwaves. This is KF5JHA.
W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? Hearing nothing, this is KF5JHA. My name is Chaz. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Well, at least the last, 12, 13 years? Concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy and space, and all sorts of things like that in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter this net at any time by using the pro sign break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? I guess not. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from the net control. That's me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions, such as like this. This is KF5JJ. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible, and there's some people over here on Echolink already using W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Now, tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, live audio, video links are available online. Just go to w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is divided in, well, it's 90 minutes long and divided into several different parts. Let's see if we can get some of those covered anyway tonight. The list goes something like this: general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events. Discussion topic of the evening was up. They're actually combined. Those two are tonight. Space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and astronomical questions and answers. Sent 73 rounds. Like I said, we'll try to get to all of those. And once again, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Now, let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Here's what I'd like to do. I would like to do these in groups of 3. So the first 3 people that are either low power or short time, please check in with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you are transmitting from. And please do that slowly, because I only do this about 4 times a year. So come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, if you're low power or short time, check in right now.
This is Alpha Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel, low power, short time. Richardson, Robert Richardson.
Kilo, Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, Foxtrot Romeo, low power. Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie, Delta, Cody and Dallas, low power.
Thank you. We'll put a pause on it right there. We get the first 3. AA5AH. I'm sorry, you're from Richardson. I've lost your name. Can you repeat that, please?
Heard a bunch of static. I didn't know if you knew my name. It's Robert in Richardson. Handy talkie, low power.
Robert, I got you that time. You're a little bit scratchy, but you're readable, so thank you very much. I acknowledge Robert and also Jacob. Thank you so much. And Cody got you as well. So please come now, the next 3, if you're low power or short time, to check into Skynet this evening. Please do your call sign phonetically and slowly, since I only do this occasionally. Oh, well, we have a pause on the action. So I guess what we do now is we go to the general check-ins. This is just radio frequency only. We'll get to the people who are over on Echolink in a few minutes. I've got most of you written down already, but please come now if you're checking in by radio frequency. Just the first 3. Again, your call sign phonetically and slowly, your name, and where you're transmitting from. The first 3 people on the general check-in list, please.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Well, thank you so much. I've already got most of you written down already, Tony. And Bill, you're also on Echolink over there. I've already got you written down. Brenda, welcome. I believe you're doing a couple segments for us tonight. So that's the next three. We're up to, I have 9 people on my list so far. I'm sorry, not 9 people. Well, I've checked in some people over on Echolink that haven't checked in on radio frequency yet. Please come now. The next 3 on radio frequency. If you'd like to check into Skynet, phonetically with your call sign and your name and your location. Please come now.
Kilo India 5, uniform, Juliet, Dustin, mobile and Denton.
So Whiskey, John in Coppell.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Well, thank you so much. I've got Justin, John, and Bill. That would be Denton, Capel, and Farmers Branch. Thank you for checking into Skynet tonight. Okay, come now with your call sign, phonetically and slowly, your name, and we'll take the next 3 people. Also, we need the location, too. So, call sign, phonetically, name, and location for the next 3 people that want to check into Skynet tonight.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
This is Alpha Golf 9er, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
Thank you so much. I've got Tom and Virginia and Antonio, some of the regulars, and they're checking in tonight as well. Okay, the next 3 people, please come now with your call sign slowly, phonetically, your name and your location. If you'd like to check into Skynet, we'll get to Echolink in just a few moments, but most of the people that are over on the Echolink have already checked in.
Golf 5, Bravo 0, Whiskey, K, West.
Hello.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, cruise in Arlington.
Kilo India 5, you're coming in hot and heavy. Kilo India 5, this is KF5WKY, checking in on 2 meter simplex.
I acknowledge Jay and Weatherford. You're a little bit scratchy, but I pulled you out. Cruz, got you in Arlington. I'm not sure about the last couple of people checking in. Please come now with your call sign slowly, phonetically, and your name and your location where you're transmitting from, please.
KI5WKY pushing firewall. Dawn, UTH, downtown Dallas, Texas. Checking in.
Okay, I've got part of it. Can you repeat your call sign once again, slowly and phonetically? Do that twice, and also give me your name twice. But I've got you in downtown Dallas, but please do your call sign slowly and phonetically. You're kind of a weak signal. Do the call sign twice, and do your name twice. Thank you. Well, you can try to check in later on. I've got you number 16 on my list, so hopefully you can make it back in. I've got you on the list, but hopefully you can try it again. Any more radio frequency check-ins? Come now with your call sign slowly, phonetically, and your name and your location. The next three people, please come now.
This is Kilo India 5 Zulu Oscar Echo Tommy from Balch Springs.
Tommy, I've got you checked in from Mulch Springs. You're a neighbor of mine. I'm in Mesquite, so that's great. Okay, since we've slowed down on radio frequency, let's switch over to Echolink. I'm going to give you more time to check in. If you'd like to check in over the air and you're on Echolink, please come now with your call sign and your name and your location.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Point.
Kelly, I've got you checked in. Thank you so much. Clay, I don't think I've heard from you. I went ahead and checked you in. K5OF. Clay, thank you so much. Jay, I think I already have you checked in, so I think we're good. Okay, any mode, anyone wanting to check into Skynet, at least for this initial round, please come now. Slowly with your call sign, phonetically, your name and your location. We're up to 19 people so far.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Patrick, so much to hear from you. That's great. You're one of the regulars that come in on Skynet as well. Well, we'll go to some more rounds of check-ins a little bit later on. We've slowed down quite a bit. So let me see. Let's get started. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's bet? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or general interest to licensed ham. Come now with your call sign if you have an announcement.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Thank you so much, Tony. NT5TM. It's yours. Oh, by the way, Kelly, I did get you checked in over here on Echolink. I did hear you. So, Tony, come now with your general announcement.
Thank you, Chaz. It's an interesting weekend because it is the 5th full weekend in April. That doesn't usually happen, but here it has. So there is no meeting on the air tomorrow. There is no races training at tomorrow. There is no White Rock. We'll be following on with its usual program with a Ham Fixins Net this Monday at 7 and an in-person meeting this Tuesday at the Dallas Medical Center. We have a program by N5KRG, that's at 7 p.m., and a board meeting full of exciting business and voting on expenses at 6 p.m. Both take place in the main hospital building in the third floor community room. Drive up to the free parking and then take the elevator up to the third floor and go the only way you can go down the hall and just listen for the exciting socializing hams. That's the northeast corner of Webb Chapel and LBJ, and we'd love to see you this Tuesday at 7 for the general meeting or 6 for the board meeting. Coming up tonight at 10:30 p.m. at 5, what is it, plus or minus 5 minutes of 10:30, we have a really exciting net. We're going to be talking about Roxette's 1994 great hit, The First Girl on the Moon. She was the first girl on the moon. She didn't compromise. She took off that cold afternoon, heading for the northern skies. Unfortunately, I think I got that wrong. I think I was off by 30 years, and we're going to be talking about 1964's Technicolor science fiction oddity, The First Men in the Moon, based on a very interesting H.G. Wells novel from many years previously. But I'm going to be humming First Girl on the Moon to myself, and the rest of you are going to be talking about The First Men in the Moon. I hope we all have a great night. It's going to be a great Skynet, and again, afterglow movie discussion coming up at about 10:30. NT5TM.
Well, thank you, Tony. I had to laugh because all of you know the first person on the moon was a woman. Her name was Alice. If you don't understand that, you need to go back in time. Okay, I haven't heard any other possibilities of general announcements, so let me talk about a few different nets that are going on throughout the week. AMSAT group has 2 different available nets for the Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and registered. You can find these under groups and AMSAT. Also, the audio link is available on their website at amsatnet.com. This net originates from Houston, Texas. Also, the Dallas AMSAT East is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. This is on this repeater, 146.88, with a private line tone of 110.9. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen on the first Tuesday of the month, which is this coming Tuesday, because there's a DARC club meeting that Tony just talked about. Tom N5HYP is the net control, but don't go there this week. Go there in about 10 days, and it'll be okay. Dallas AMSAT West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14, with a private line tone of 110.9, positive offset. Now, let's see now. We have all sorts of different nets that happen throughout the week. Tony talked about some of those. Let's see now. Ham Fixins is on the first and third Mondays. Ecom 101 is on the second Monday of the month. GeekNet is on the fourth Monday of the month. And on the 5th is a surprise net, but that's not going to happen for a while because, it's already past the 5th month. I've already talked about AMSAT. Oh, Search City, can't forget that. That's on Friday nights. Melissa sometimes will stop by Skynet. Search City Simulation is at 8 p.m. on Fridays. You can learn all about emergency communications with that one. Saturdays, of course, we have TechNet at 7 to 8. That was earlier tonight. And on the first and third Sundays, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting is held on the air. But again, that's not this coming Sunday. You'll have to wait for a week. All right. I think that we are ready to go on. Oh, I forgot the ARRL net traffic, National Traffic System Training Net is on every night on this repeater at 6:30 p.m. They're usually finished by 7 p.m. All right, let me see. There's an afterglow. Tony talked about that. And again, I think Alice was the person that was on the moon first. Maybe Tom can enlighten us about the movie and who was on the moon first. Tom, it's yours. KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Bill, and this is KE5ICX. Here's my highly accurate description of tonight's film. Joseph Caver was an inventor.
But he wasn't just any inventor. He was a British, and he enjoyed high tea and opportunities to talk funny when tourists visited his village. But he wasn't alone. He also had developed the ability to fly to the moon using anti-gravity material he made from his afternoon tea and crumpets. But of course he wasn't alone. Just next door was Caractacus Todd, another inventor who also owned a magical flying car. He couldn't be ignored as a possible competitor to Cover. They frequently would lob creative inventions at each other. Cover once built a double-decker bus 100 years before one existed just so he could magically drive it into Pot's magical car. He hated the man that much. In any case, the day was still young, and his antics today would be to discourage Pot's chimney sweep convention being held in his backyard. Perhaps the anti-gravity paint he invented might have applied to Pot's double-decker bus. Join us for this very British adventure, First Men in the Moon, from 1964 at 10:30. Back to you, Mr. Net Control. This is KE5ITX.
Thank you, Tom. I think you mistakenly called me Bill a few minutes ago, but I've been called lots of things. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Okay, let's see if we have any more people that are hanging around out there in Radio Land that would like to check in. Come now with your call sign, slowly, phonetically, your name and your location if you'd like to check into Skynet this evening.
Kilo Charlie 5, Romeo Alpha India, Charles here in Dallas.
Well, welcome to the net, Charles. I think I saw you pop up on Echolink for just a few moments, so welcome. You were number 21 on my list of people that have checked into Skynet. That's great. Now, let me talk about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. We had a Dallas Astronomical Society Dallas Club meeting last night at 7:30. It was at the University of Texas at Dallas and also was held on Zoom. It was great. Lonnie Weechie was talking about the state of the telescope industry. What I found was fascinating, one thing, was that about 95% of our telescopes are coming from China in one way or another. Wow. Now, this coming Saturday night, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on, oh shoot, I did that and I don't have that in here. It's going to be held on May the 26th at 7:30 p.m. And again, the meeting will be held at the University of Texas at Dallas and will be also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be a pair of people from the TAS teen. We have actually a junior or a teen club, and they're going to be talking about NASA. And also, let me see, what is it? Do I have it listed here? I don't have it listed here. I had it, and I've lost it. Oh, well. Now, Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there was an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. This is a fifth Saturday, and so there's no observing sessions that are held on the fifth Saturday. On the first, it's held in Fairview, and the second, it's held at Frisco. On the third Saturday, it's held in Cedar Hill. And on the fourth Saturday, it's held in Rockwall. But this is a fifth Saturday, so there's none scheduled. So you'll have to wait until next week to maybe get a report from an observing. It's great. It's clear outside tonight. Of course it is, because we don't have an observing session going on. If you want to find out more information about that, go to texasastro.org. That'll give you detailed information about meetings and public observing sessions. Now, let me see. I think important to talk about that's going to happen about a month from now. Bill, N5BB, come now with all that wonderful information. This is KF5JHA. Oh, Bill, did we lose you again? I don't see you over here on Echo Link anymore, and I don't hear you on the radio. Bill, N5BB, if you can hear me, please come back. Let us know information about the National Space Society of North Texas. Back to you a little bit later. I guess that's the state of the situation. We had to do that last week, so we'll get back to you a little bit later. All right, let's see now. I guess what's up is the discussion topic of the evening, and that's done by the net control. That would be me. And so I'm actually merging this into Was Up, which is the next section. So it's all in one time. Tom, you are our slide changer. Could you please go to slide number 1, please? We call this segment of Skynet Was Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. Slide Masters. Oh, and if you're looking at the video version of this, slide number 1 has a different young picture of me. I found one that was even younger than the one I had posted before. I think I'm about 6 years old in that picture. All right, Slide Master, slide number 2. On April the 27th was the first quarter moon, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. Yesterday, on April the 28th, the moon was at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 4,299 kilometers. On May the 5th is full moon. On May the 11th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 369,343 kilometers. Third quarter moon occurs on May the 12th, and new moon will be on May the 19th. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. On the night of May the 5th, 6th is the peak of the Eta Aquariid meteor shower with a maximum of up to 55 meteors per hour. Now, this is one of the major meteor showers during the year. It is famous for being the result of the debris left behind by Comet Halley, or Halley. On the night of May the 8th and 9th, the Eta Lyrid meteor shower reaches its maximum with only about 3 meteors per hour. It's associated with the debris left behind by Comet C1983H1, also known as Iris-Araki-Alcock. Now, for more information about meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at AMSmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. Bill, I see you're back online on Echolink. We'll get to you in just a few moments. We missed you there for a little bit. On May the 13th, the Moon and Saturn will be in conjunction in the southeastern morning sky. And Slide Master slide number 5 talks about May the 15th. The Moon and Neptune will be in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. Now, the planet Neptune can't be seen with your naked eye. In fact, a pair of binoculars are not going to work. What you need is a telescope to find the planet Neptune, because the moon is sort of a thin crescent moon. You should be able to find Neptune, even though you've got the moon that's pretty close to it. Slide Master, slide number 6. On May the 16th, the largest asteroid series is next to the bright star Denebola, which is the tail of the constellation of Leo the Lion. They'll be in conjunction in the evening sky. And Slide Master, slide number 7. On May the 17th, the moon and the planet Jupiter will be in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet, and I'm your net control for the evening. Slide Master, slide number 8. Once again, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, May the 26th at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. Featured speakers will be a couple of people from the Teen Task Group, and they'll be talking about NASA, and I'll check the other organization in just a minute. But about internships, yes, that'll be interesting. And the observing programs have been started and been going on for now a year after the sort of a reboot a year ago. And we don't have one on the 5th Saturday, but we do have them on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Saturdays. TASS does. Now, if you want to find information out about the TASS website, go to TASS or texasastro.org, and you can get up-to-date information and details about the meetings and public observing sessions. Okay. Now, do any of you out there, this is slide number 9, please. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or do you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
KC5 or AI?
Charles, it's yours. Go ahead. What's your question?
Well, am I crazy or no? What? Because I think it was like middle of the day one day, and I'm seeing the moon, and I was thinking, you only see the moon at night, but this was like around 12 o'clock, so I don't know. I don't want people to think I'm crazy, but I thought I saw the moon one day.
Actually, you can see the moon oftentimes during the day. In fact, you can see the moon in the daytime sky as often as you see it at night. Depends on the position of the sun, the earth, and the moon. You could have seen the moon rise a little bit after noon today, so from about 1 o'clock all the way till sunset, you could have seen it in the daytime sky today because it was clear. So, no, you weren't crazy. You can actually do that. So that's interesting. It depends on the phase of the moon, what part of the day you can see the moon in the daytime sky. Now, the only time you really can't see the moon in the daytime sky is when it's full, because the full moon will rise when the sun, and the full moon will set when the sun rises. But other than that, you should be able to see the moon sometime during the day. That's a great question, and I hope I've answered it for you, Charles. Do you have any other questions, Charles?
At the moment.
Hey, thank you so much. This is what I like about Skynet, that we can chat back and forth about different things. So, okay, Slide Master, slide number 10. So as the moon waned at the middle of April, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until the next segment that I'm going to do, well, that'll be in a few moments, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ. And this is Skynet. I believe we're up to space exploration and space history. I believe it's highlighted. I think Brenda's doing it. WB5OZL. Brenda, is it up to you this week?
This is WB5OZL. Give me just a second to queue up. I honestly didn't realize I was next. Stand by. Time is just flying by. I'm so sorry. Okay. First up, space exploration news. NASA's ShadowCam images lunar South Pole region. With the success of NASA's Artemis 1 mission and the agency recently naming the Artemis 2 crew, progress toward humanity's first ever journey to the lunar South Pole region during Artemis 3 is well underway. To prepare, NASA scientists and engineers are learning as much about our place in the universe and venture farther than ever before. One way scientists are gathering information is through a hypersensitive optical camera called shadow cam. The NASA instrument is flying with 5 other Korean instruments aboard. It's KARI, Korea Aerospace Research Institute's KPLO, Korea Pathfinder Lunar Orbiter, also known as DNURI. It was launched in August 2022. Developed by Malin Space Science Systems and Arizona State University, ShadowCam is significantly more light sensitive than comparable lunar cameras. It acquires high-resolution images of permanently shadowed regions which never receive direct sunlight in service of science and exploration planning for Artemis missions and robotic missions. Since DNURI entered lunar orbit last December, ShadowCam has been routinely capturing images of the lunar north and south pole regions. Below are some standout images so far and what they reveal. You have to see the images. Next, NASA's Voyager will do more science with new power strategy. Launched in 1977, the Voyager 2 spacecraft is more than 12 billion miles from Earth using 5 science instruments to study interstellar space. To help keep these instruments operating despite a diminishing power supply, the aging spacecraft has begun using a small reservoir of backup power set aside as part of an onboard safety mechanism. The move will enable the mission to postpone shutting down a science instrument until 2026 rather than this year. Voyager 2 and its twin Voyager 1 are the only spacecraft ever to operate outside the heliosphere, the protective bubble of particles and magnetic fields generated by the sun. The probes are helping scientists answer questions about the shape of the heliosphere and its role in protecting Earth from the energetic particles and other radiation found in the interstellar environment. The science data that the Voyagers are returning is more valuable the farther away from the sun they go, so we're definitely interested in keeping as many science instruments operating as long as possible, said Linda Spolker, Voyager's project scientist at NASA's JPL laboratory, or JPL in Southern California, which manages the mission for NASA. Next, FAA grounds the Starship. SpaceX's Starship has been grounded by the U.S. government following claims that the rocket's explosive first launch spread plumes of potentially hazardous debris over homes and the habitats of endangered animals. The FAA, the U.S. Civil Aviation Regulator, has stopped SpaceX from conducting any further launches until it has concluded a mishap investigation into Starship's April 20th test launch. The massive rocket's dramatic flight began by punching a crater into the concrete beneath the launch pad and ended when the giant rocket exploded in midair 4 minutes later. The FAA will oversee the mishap investigation of the Starship Super Heavy test mission, FAA officials wrote in a statement on April 20th. A return to flight of the Starship Super Heavy vehicle is based on the FAA determining that any system, process, or procedure related to the mishap does not affect public safety. This is a standard practice for all mishap investigations. Dust and debris from the test reportedly rained down on residents in Port Isabel, Texas, a town roughly 6 miles from the launch pad, and across Boca Chica's beaches, which are nesting grounds for endangered animals, including birds and sea turtles. Astronaut birthdays. Yvonne Cagle, April 24th, 1959, she had no missions. Ellen S. Baker, April 27th, 1953. Her missions were STS 34, 50, and 71. Paul Lockhart, April 28th, 1956, STS 111 and 113. John Oliver Creighton, April 28th, 1943, STS 51G, 36, and 48. And Jerome Apt, April 28, 1949, SCS 37, 47, 59, and 79. This week in space history, on April 27, 1961, NASA launched Explorer 11 into orbit. In addition to being the last successful launch of the Juno 11. Must be Juno 2, and this is Explorer 2. Sorry about that. Developed by the team led by Werner von Braun and was the world's first orbiting gamma-ray observatory. Although it only detected 22 gamma rays from astronomical sources during its 224 days of operation, this 37-kilogram satellite provided evidence to help disprove the steady-state theory and shifted support to the Big Bang theory, which still dominates cosmology today. Ranger 4, first satellite to reach the surface of the moon, April 26, 1962. Was launched 3 days earlier and impacted the moon's surface. It was intended to transmit pictures of the lunar surface to Earth stations for the 10 minutes of flight prior to crashing on the moon's surface. However, an onboard computer failure caused failure of the deployment of the solar panels and navigation systems, resulting in Ranger crashing on the far side of the moon without returning any scientific data. This is the first U.S. object to reach another celestial body. And finally, on April 25th, 1990, the launched. The Hubble Space Telescope is a space telescope that was launched into low Earth orbit on April 25th, 1990, and remains in operation. It was not the first space telescope, but it is one of the largest and most versatile, renowned both as a vital research tool and as a public relations boon for astronomy. The Hubble telescope is named after astronomer Edwin Hubble and is one of NASA's great observatories. The Space Telescope Science Institute selects Hubble's targets and processes the resulting data, while the Goddard Space Flight Center controls the spacecraft. Back to net, this is WB50ZL.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Hey, the Hubble has been, and I hope will be for quite some time in the future, a significant part of our exploration of the universe. So thank you so much. This is KF5JHA, our net control for Skynet tonight. I think we have queued up somebody from the National Space Society of North Texas. His name is Bill. I think he's over at least on Echolink, and he can tell us all about the National Space Society. Bill, come now.
Hi, Chaz. Yes, but I'm going to transmit on RF. This is N5BB. Can you hear me okay?
You are 5 by 5.
Very good, thank you. This is N5BB. Bill, I am the member at large and the membership coordinator or director for the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. The National Space Society is a group that's mostly in the U.S., but there's members around the world that encourages human activities in space. So this is not astronomy, but this includes the Hubble Space Telescope and other things that humans put up there. It includes, Chaz said earlier, this is the only world humans live on. Well, no, the International Space Station, you could say, is another world. It's away from the Earth's surface, and humans live up there right now since, for the last 23 years. So anyway, we encourage all kinds of things in the National Space Society which humans do in space, sending off things from the Earth's surface, either robotic probes or humans to the moon or Mars, or the ISS, etc. And we have a local chapter here in Irving. The local chapter meets on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. If you have any interest in National Space Society and want to communicate, ask questions, you can contact me at N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, at ARRL.net, or space at Byram.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. I'll be glad to answer your questions about the National Space Society or our larger local chapter. The really big news is the International Space Development Conference 2023. I've been talking about it for months because it's a really big thing. There's a lot of people like astronauts, like NASA administrators, previous administrators, futurists, science fiction authors, but a lot of times people that are running big programs, Lockheed Martin and other companies that are going to be putting spacecraft up, hotels in space. Is decommissioned, which, if you haven't heard it, it was just announced it was going to be continued until 2030. That's right, until 2030. The Russians announced that they're going to stop participating in 2028, but the rest of the world, including the U.S., is going to participate until 2030. That's the current latest news, which just came out within the last 48 hours, I believe, on the NASA website. Anyway, so this International Space Development Conference is in Embassy Suites in Frisco at the Frisco Convention Center. It's 4 full days, May the 25th, Thursday, through May the 28th, Sunday. So this is the early part of the Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day is Monday. So this is the earlier part of that weekend. You can learn more and sign up to participate at isdc2023.nss.org. So again, that's the ISDC, like International Space Development Conference, ISDC2023.nss.org for the National Space Society. A web search will also lead you to that page pretty easily. The least expensive way of participating is to join the National Space Society. If you're a senior, if you're 65 or older, or a student, it's quite a bit less expensive. But even if you're not, join the National Space Society, even if you only do it for 1 year. Once you're a member, then sign up for ISDC, and you will get a significant discount. There are regular meetings you can go to, and so by paying the main fee, you get to walk into the meetings. No additional charge to go into the meetings. There are also lunches and dinners, which are paid. So they require a significant fee because they're fancy lunches, fancy dinners, and there's fancy speakers, people that are astronauts and many other people very involved in the space program around the world, and from various companies, organizations, and nonprofits. The National Space Society local chapter had a booth. We actually had 2 booths at EarthX last weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday a week ago, and it was very successful. A lot of people came by and signed up for our newsletter, etc. And we had a special EarthX discount for ISDC, but that was over on Tuesday, so if you weren't there, you missed that. Anyway, I can't say enough about ISDC. It's a really neat event. You might sit there, you might be able to have dinner and talk with an astronaut or somebody that designed one of the NASA space probes or involved with, some big project at a private company that they're building for space. So it's a small enough thing that you can kind of rub shoulders with all these big wigs, and they're pretty open about things. And one of them a few years ago, Jeff Bezos was there talking about his space projects. That's all I have right now. This is N5BB. Thank you, Chaz.
Thank you, Bill. I know this is a major event that is held in various places across the country, and we've got it in DSW this year. This is awesome. So thank you so much. Hey, I have a couple of pieces of information. The next task meeting is on Friday, May the 26th at 7:30 p.m. But I did get the right information. I updated my PowerPoint for the video version. I never updated it on my written portion. So the featured speaker is the Teen Task Vice President, Rishka Porandia, and Hannah Singer. They're going to be talking about the Northwest Earth and Space Sciences Pathways / NASA internship. So that'll be an interesting topic for us at the next task meeting. Okay, let's see. We need to have some more check-ins. If you are just hanging out there and you haven't checked into Skynet and would like to do so, come now with your call sign slowly, phonetically, and your name and your location that you're transmitting from. Come now if you'd like to check into Skynet.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WD4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
The net recognizes Ted and Sean and James, some of our regulars. We're up to 24 people. Are there any other people that'd like to check into Skynet? Come now slowly and phonetically with your call sign, your name, and your location. If you'd like to check into Skynet, please come now.
Number 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, over in Mesquite.
Clay, since you were on Echolink, I checked you in because you're my neighbor, so thank you so much. All right, if you want to check in, you can do so later. We're going to get back to some other business in Skynet. Right now, we've got the Constellation of the Week. Slide Master, slide number 11, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in North Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Centaurus, the Centaur. The constellation Centaurus represents the centaur Chiron from the Greek mythology. Chiron is the leader of the centaurs, which is a race of half men and half horse creatures. In mythology, the centaurs had a reputation of savagery, but Chiron was a notable exception. To quote from Star-Lord Handbook, he was a wise and benevolent, taught humans many arts and skills, and is credited with the design of the constellation figures themselves. That's interesting. Slide Master, slide number 12. What everyone's been waiting for tonight, the jokes of the week. There's a Centaur walking around in a hazmat suit. All right, how would you fill in the rest of this? There's a Centaur walking around in a hazmat suit. He's from the Centaurs for Disease Control. Okay, maybe that wasn't so good. What do you get if you cross a human and a centaur? Remember, a centaur is half human, half horse. So what do you get if you cross a human and a centaur? Well, you'd get a quarter horse, of course. Don't try to do the math. It does work out. So a centaur walks into a bar, and the bartender says, "How's the sore throat?" And the centaur replies, "My throat isn't hoarse, but my legs are." Okay, maybe that was good. What do you call a talkative man horse? A centaur of attention. Okay, and the last one. Hold your breath. Why did the centaur never get a singing career? Well, I already did something like this. He's always somewhat a little hoarse. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. Help me get out of this. How do you find Centaurus? Well, let's start with something we've already talked about in Skynet before. Virgo has a bright star in the sky called Spica. If you can't find Spica, you start at the handle of the Big Dipper. It's curved. It curves to the star Arcturus, or arcs to Arcturus, and then you keep on arcing until you run into something called Spica. Now, once you found Spica, just go south, down from there, and Spica, and you'll run into the constellation of Centaurus. Slide Master, slide number 14, please. Alpha Centauri. The proper name for Alpha Centauri is Rigel Centaurus, meaning the centaur's foot, which is derived from the star's position in the constellation. Now, it's not visible from Dallas. Nope, it's not. It's too far south, but it could be seen possibly from Brownsville, getting as high as about 3.5 degrees high. Alpha Centauri is a triple star system and is famous for being the closest star system to us. Well, other than our sun. It's only 4.34 light years away. It's the third brightest star in the sky as seen from the Earth, shining at minus 0.27 magnitude. Only Sirius and Canopus, we've talked about Canopus, appear brighter in the sky. Next slide, Slide Master, slide number 15. The system consists of Alpha Centaur A, Alpha Centaur B, and Alpha Centaur C. A and B being a close pair that you could split in amateur telescopes. These two stars are similar in size to the Sun, and they have an orbital period about 80 years, not 100, but about 80 years, with a true distance between them varying from about 11 to 35 astronomical units. It's the star's trinary nature that stands out in place in the Astronomical League's Southern Sky Observing Club. A is a yellow G2 star, similar to the Sun, and B is a yellow K1 star. Now, Alpha Centaur C is known also as Proxima Centaur. It's a red dwarf star that is slightly nearer to us than the bright AB pair, making it the closest individual star other than our Sun to us. It orbits around A and B pair at a distance of about 1 trillion miles, giving it a long orbital estimated period of 500,000 years. It shines at 11th magnitude. So it should be visible from the southern dark sky site with a 3-inch or larger telescope. Interesting. Slide Master, slide number 16. Proxima Centauri is known to have at least one planet orbiting about it. This is known as Proxima Centauri b, making it the closest known exoplanet to our solar system. It was discovered using a radial velocity method where periodic Doppler shifts in the spectral lines of the host star suggest an orbital object. The discovery of Proxima Centauri b was announced in August of 2015 by the European Southern Observatory. The exoplanet's exact mass has not yet been determined, but it's believed to be somewhere between 1.3 and 3 times the mass of the Earth. So it's not a giant planet like Jupiter, but it's a super Earth planet maybe. It orbits Proxima at a distance of 4.6 million miles with a period of about 11.2 Earth days. From Proxima Centauri b, or indeed from anywhere in the Alpha Centauri triple system, the Earth's sun would appear to be only a bright 0 magnitude star in the constellation of Cassiopeia, near the Cassiopeia-Perseus border. Not too far from the double cluster. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 17. Beta Centauri is also known as Hadar. Hadar is the Arabic word for ground, which is derived from the fact that in ancient times Beta Centauri was always close to the horizon when it was visible. Beta Centauri is not visible from Dallas. It is also theoretically visible from Brownsville, transiting at about maybe almost 4 degrees above the southern horizon at its highest. It's a blue-white B1 star similar to Rigel in Orion. It is about 490 light years in distance and shines at a magnitude of 0.66, making it the 10th brightest star in the sky. Beta Centauri itself is a double star having a magnitude of 4.1 companion that is difficult to split because they're only 1.3 arcseconds apart from the primary. Beta Centauri forms a wide naked eye pair about 4.5 degree separation from Alpha. A line drawn from Alpha Centauri to Beta Centauri points to the nearby Crux, the Southern Cross. T Centauri is a variable star. It varies about over a 90-day period of time from a magnitude of 5.5 at its brightest to about 9th magnitude at its faintest. That's quite a big change. T Centauri is easily visible from the latitude of Dallas. It is in the northern part of the constellation. Slide Master, slide number 18. We're going to talk about a famous globular star cluster. Omega Centauri, also known as NGC 5139, is the famous globular cluster in the southern sky. Omega is widely believed to be the largest, brightest, and probably the closest of the globular clusters surrounding the Milky Way. From clear, dark skies, Omega can be easily seen with the naked eye, and it shines at a magnitude 3.7. Assuming you are not too far away from the south, or it's not far enough away from the south to see. At the Texas Star Party, held at the Prude Range in Fort Davis, which starts in about a month, it's a great location to see Omega Centauri. Also nearby is the Davis Mountain State Park. And the Big Bend National Park that I was at just a couple weeks ago. Well, maybe about a month ago, which is even further south. Omega can be seen at Tass Observing Site near Atoka, Oklahoma. That far north, you can still see Omega Centauri. Walter Scott Houston, a longtime columnist for the Deep Sky Wonders column and the Sky and Telescope magazine, surmised that it would should at least be theoretically visible from locations such as New York City, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and San Francisco. Houston wrote in his sightings from Bird City, Kansas. He actually saw it from there. Also at latitude 39 and 45 minutes, Pittsburgh, and some other places he's also seen it from. Houston himself saw it from his home in East Haddam, Connecticut. Wow, that's pretty far north. Slide Master, slide number 19. Centaurus A, also NGC 5128, is sometimes called the Hamburger Galaxy, though that nickname appears more often used for NGC 3628 in Leo, the third member of the Leo trio, with M65 and 66 being the other two members. But let's go back to Centaur A. It is about 5 degrees due north of Omega Centauri, so it can be seen from the latitude in Dallas, and it shines at a magnitude of 6.7, so it's viewable in binoculars. Stephen James Amira writes that NGC 5128 is the most dynamic and intriguing galaxy in the heavens. It is virtually a superlative in every region of the electromagnetic spectrum. It is by far the nearest, the most violent Seyfert-type galaxy known, and is one of the most intense radio sources in the heavens, and a wellspring of infrared and X-rays and gamma-ray radiation as well. Wow. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 20. Here are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects from the constellation of Centaurus, the Centaur. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 75 different observing programs, of which about 100 objects is what each one of them has. If you observe just 10 different objects in each observing program, or in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. And Slide Master, slide number 21, that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Centaurus, the Centaur. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next time I'll take a look at Crater the Cup and Corvus the Crow. Wow. Okay, let's see now. Slide Master, it's up to you now, I believe. Space launches for the next week or so. Tom, KE5ICX, would you like to take it away for a few minutes? This is KF5JHA.
Well, of course I would. Rest your voice for a little bit. Okay. Well, let's see. This is KE5I6. Space launches for this week and maybe a little beyond that. We have April 30th, Falcon Heavy. This will launch from Launch Complex 39A from Kennedy Space Center. It's been scrubbed twice, so tomorrow will be the big day. SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket will launch the ViaSat-3, America's broadband communication satellite. It is the first of at least 3 new-generation Boeing-built geostationaries. We have on May 2nd, Falcon 9 launch, Starlink 5-6. This is from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force in Florida. Be another batch of Starlink V1.5 Internet satellites. The first stage booster will land on a drone in the Pacific Ocean. Then on May 2nd, 3rd, overnight, Electron Tropics 3 and 4 will launch from Launch Complex 1B in Maya Peninsula in New Zealand. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch a second pair of small CubeSats for NASA's Tropics mission. The time-resolved observations of precipitation, structure, and storm intensity, or tropics, well, with Constellation, a small sat for tropics mission will measure environmental and inner core conditions for tropical cyclones. The 2 satellites were originally contracted for the Rocket 3 vehicle. Okay, then we have on, let's see here, it's to be determined, but it's been updated, Starlink 5-9, that'll launch from SLC-40 from Cape Canaveral in Florida. Be another batch of those satellites. This is delayed from April. Then we have Starlink 6-3, this will be sometime in May, launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. Again, another series of V2 mini internet satellites. We got something a little newer. We've got, or different. We have a Falcon 9 launching the OneWeb Iridium Next satellite. This will be from Vandenberg Space Force Base, California. There'll be 15 spare satellites for OneWeb's first generation global internet network and 1 prototype for OneWeb's Gen 2 second generation network. 5 spare satellites for Iridium's voice and data relay fleet will also launch on this mission. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land in landing zone 4 at Vandenberg. May 10th, we'll have a launch from Long March 7 from Wenchang, China. The Long March 7 rocket will launch the Shenzhou 6 resupply ship docked with the Chinese space station. The automated cargo craft is the 5th resupply freighter to the Chinese space station. Then also in May will be a Long March 2F launch. This will be a rocket that launches the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft with 3 Chinese astronauts to rendezvous and dock with the Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. This is China's 11th crewed space mission and the 5th to the Chinese space station. The crew numbers have not been announced by China as of yet. May 15th will be Tropics 5 and 6. That's that Rocket Lab Electron launch with the time-resolved observation, precipitation, structure, storm intensity of Constellation small at. You try and say that in one breath. This is 3 and 4 of the satellites that were originally launched by the Rocket 3 vehicle. And let's see here. I'm going to end it with this one, May 17th, Falcon 9, Axiom Mission 2. This will be from Launch Complex 39A, Kennedy Space Center. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Crew Dragon spacecraft on the program's 10th flight with astronauts. The commercial mission, managed by Axiom Space, is commanded by former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. Paying passenger John Schaffner will serve as the pilot of the mission. 2 commercial space flyers from Saudi Arabia, Ali Al-Qarni and Raya Bunawi, will also be on the approximately 12-day mission to the space station. Crew Dragon will return to its splashdown at sea off the coast of Florida. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. And that's all I'm going to do, Bill. Bill, I did it again. I'm sorry. Chaz. You guys look so much alike. I do that sometimes. Back to you, Chaz. KE5ICX.
Bill has more hair. Really, he does. All right, let's see if there's any more check-ins to Skynet. Come now with your call sign if you'd like to check into Skynet. Come now with your call sign slowly, phonetically, and your name, and your transmitting location. Johnny, that's over there on Echolink. I've got you checked in, KG5TNF. I've got you checked in already, but is there anybody else that'd like to join us for check-ins? Okay, I guess we're up to number 9 on the list of activities for the evening. Brenda, WB5OZL, I believe it's up to you to do recent astronomical discoveries. This is KF5JJ to Brenda.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL. This article is entitled, Asteroid's Comet-like Tail is Not Made of Dust. Solar Observatories Reveal. A weird asteroid just got a little weirder. We've known for a long time that asteroid 3200 Phaeton acts like a comet. It brightens and forms a tail when it's near the sun. It is the source of the annual Geminid meteor shower, even though comets are responsible for most meteor showers. Scientists had blamed Phaeton's comet-like behavior on dust escaping from the asteroid as it's scorched by the sun. However, a new study using 2 NASA solar observatories reveals that Phaeton's tail is not dusty at all, but is actually made of sodium gas. Our analysis shows that Phaeton's comet-like activity cannot be explained by any kind of dust, said California Institute of Technology PhD student Guoxing Zhang, who is the lead author of a paper published in the Planetary Science Journal reporting the results. Asteroids, which are mostly rocky, do not usually form tails when they approach the sun. Comets, however, are a mix of ice and rock, typically do form tails as the sun vaporizes their ice, blasting material off their surfaces and leaving a trail along their orbits. When Earth passes through a debris tail, these cometary bits burn up in our atmosphere and produce a swarm of shooting stars, a meteor shower. After astronomers discovered Phaethon in 1983, they realized this asteroid's orbit matched that of the Geminid meteors. This pointed to Phaethon as the source of the annual meteor shower, even though Phaethon was an asteroid and not a comet. In 2009, NASA's Terrestrial Relations Observatory, STEREO, short tail extending from Phaethon, as the asteroid reached its closest point to the sun, or perihelion, along its 524-day orbit. Regular telescopes hadn't seen the tail before because it only forms when Phaethon is too close to the sun to observe, except with solar observatories. Stereo also saw Phaethon's tail develop on later solar approaches in 2012 and 2016. The tail's appearance supported the idea that dust was escaping the asteroid's surface when heated by the sun. However, in 2018, another solar mission imaged part of the Geminid debris tail and found a surprise. As observations from NASA's Parker Solar Probe showed that the trail contained far more material than Phaethon could possibly shed during its close approaches to the sun. Zhang's team wondered whether something else other than dust was behind Phaethon's comet-like behavior. Comets often glow brilliantly by sodium emission when very near the sun, so we expected sodium would likewise serve a key in Phaethon's brightening, Zhang said. An earlier study based on models and lab tests suggested the sun's intense heat during Phaethon's close solar approaches could indeed vaporize sodium within the asteroid and drive comet-like activity. Hoping to find out what the tail is really made of, Zhang looked for it again during Phaethon's latest perihelion in 2022. He used the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, also called SOHO, spacecraft, a joint mission between NASA and the European Space Agency, ESA, which has color filters that can detect sodium and dust. Zhang's team also searched archival images from Stereo and SOHO, finding the tail during 18 of Phaethon's close solar approaches between 1997 and 2022. In SOHO's observations, the asteroid's tail appeared bright in the filter that detects sodium, but it did not appear in the filter that detects dust. In addition, the shape of the tail and the way it brightened as Phaethon passed the sun matched exactly what scientists would expect if it were made of sodium, but not if it were made of dust. The evidence indicates that Phaethon's tail is made of sodium, not dust. Not only do we have a really cool result that kind of upends 14 years of thinking about a well-scrutinized object, SIT team member Carl Badams of the Naval Research Laboratory, but we also did this using data from two heliophysics spacecraft, SOHO and Stereo, that were not at all intended to study phenomena like this. Zhang and his colleagues now wonder whether some comets discovered by SOHO and by citizen scientists studying SOHO images as part of the Sungrazer project are not comets at all. A lot of these other sun-skirting comets may also not be comets in the usual icy body sense, but may instead be rocky asteroids like Phaethon heated up by the sun, Zhang explained. Still, one important question remains. If Phaethon doesn't shed much dust, how does the asteroid supply the material for the Geminid meteor shower we see each December? Zhang's team suspects that some sort of disruptive event a few thousand years ago, perhaps a piece of the asteroid breaking apart under the stresses of Phaethon's rotation, caused Phaethon to eject the billion tons of material estimated to make up the Geminid debris stream. But what that event was remains a mystery. More answers may come from an upcoming Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency mission called Destiny Plus, short for Demonstration and Experiment of Science, Space Technology for Interplanetary Voyage Phaethon, Flyby, and Dust Science. Later this decade, the Destiny Plus spacecraft is expected to fly past Phaethon, imaging its rocky surface and studying any dust that might exist around this enigmatic asteroid. That's it. This is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net. This is WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Thanks for doing a couple segments tonight. This is KF5JJ, the net control for Skynet. Now, number 10 on our list of activities is visible satellite passages for the next few days. I'm going to send that back to Tom, KE5ICX. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, sure, Chaz. I'll be happy to. Let's see. The International Space Station's a no-show this week, so I have no good passes for it. In fact, in the at heavensabove.com, it absolutely shows no crossings here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Sorry. But I do have the Chinese Space Station, Tiangong. It has a few passes. April 30th, 109, and it'll fall to the north-northwest of 2111 and northeast. Then on May 4th, there is a good pass. This will be minus 0.3 magnitude at 2147 in the evening out of the northwest. It'll reach its highest point, only 23 degrees at 2129, and it'll fall to the northeast at 2150. May 7th has a minus 2.3 magnitude. This one's much better at 2152 in the evening out of the west-northwest, reaches its highest point almost overhead at 85 degrees at 2155, and then it falls into shadow at that same time at 2155. So it's a great pass, but then the other half of it we don't get to see. May 8th has a good pass, minus 1.5 magnitude. This one is 2049 out of the northwest, reaches its highest point at 2052 at 46 degrees, and it'll fall to the east at 2055. The Hubble Space Telescope is next. Get that so. We have a couple of passes here that are pretty good. May 2nd, 1.8 magnitude at 5:05 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 5:05:58. So about 28 seconds there after it comes out, and then it will fall to the east and southeast. May 3rd is a decent pass. So this one is a 1.7 magnitude at 4:51 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 32 degrees, so it actually comes out of the shadow, and it'll go to the east-northeast at 4:55. May 6th has a good pass. There are actually two. The better of the two is at 5:46 a.m. Reach its highest point at 39 degrees at 5:49, and it'll fall to the east and southeast at 10 degrees at 5:53, and then finally, May 7th, 1.4 magnitude, 5:32 a.m. out of the west-southwest, reach its highest point at 5:35 at 37 degrees, and it'll fall to 5:39 in the east-southeast. That's it. Chaz, back to you, KE5ICX.
Yes, this is KF5JJ Chaz, also known as Bill. Oh, well. All right, let's see now. Are there any more last-minute check-ins into Skynet? If you'd like to check in and get credit for tonight's Skynet, please come now slowly, phonetically, with your call sign and your name and your location that you're transmitting from. Well, it was worth a try. Well, I think I've found a total number of 25 people that have checked in. So 25 hams participated in the air tonight. I want to thank all of those who checked in tonight, and especially those people who had questions. And that's I enjoyed having people ask questions, and we come up with answers. I'm not the only person with answers here. There's a lot of people here. Any NASA questions, I'd call on Kelly. Yeah, that's what I would do. I hope you'll join us here next week with a much better net control, and every Saturday night at 9 o'clock to discuss astronomy, space exploration, and those kind of things. The sky is never the limit here. It's above that. We're always looking for new net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand, you can contact any of the net controls or by sending an email at nets@w5fc.org.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow. This is an easy one to be a net controller. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as the audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org on the internet. Until next Saturday night, this is KF5JHA Chaz, and I'll be closing the net at 10:30 and 31 seconds local time and returning this repeater to, well, I don't know if it's normal because I know what's coming up next. Normal amateur use. 73, everybody, enjoy watching and discovering the universe. Tom, do you want to talk about when the next Afterglow net starts?
Well, of course I will, and thank you, Chaz, for doing a wonderful job, and your evil twin, Bill, who also helped out. Yeah, we'll be back in about 5 minutes, so go do what you need to do. We'll be back in 5 minutes to discuss this week's movie, First Men in the Moon from 1964. We'll see you then. 5 minutes from now. This is KE5ICX. All right, it's time. Let's discuss tonight's Afterglow Movie Net, and then we'll take check-in. This is KE. It was a 1964 British science fiction film that was produced by Charles Chenier, directed by Nathan Duran, not familiar, starring Edward Judd, Martha Heyer, and Lionel Jeffries. Yeah, that's Lionel Jeffries. The film is distributed by Columbia Pictures and is an adaptation by screenwriter Nigel Neal of H.G. Wells' 1901 novel, The First Men on the Moon. Ray Harryhausen provided the stop-motion action animated effects, which include the selenite, a giant caterpillar-like moon cows, and a large brain brand lunar. The film was made 5 years prior to man actually first landing on the moon. So let me give you a little bit about the plot in case you haven't seen the movie recently. Here it is. In 1964, the United Nations launched a rocket flight to the moon. A multinational group of astronauts and UN spacecraft land, believing themselves to be the first lunar explorers. However, they discover a Union Jack flag on the surface and note mentioning Catherine Callender, which claimed the moon for Queen Victoria. Attempting to trace the Callender in the records office in Demkirk Church in Kent, southeast England, UN authorities discovered that she has died, but that her husband, Colonel Bedford, is still living in a nursing home known as the Lyme. The home staff do not let him watch television and report to the moon expedition because, according to the matron, it excites him. Bedford's repeat lunar claims are dismissed as senile delusions. UN representatives question him about the moon, and he tells them this story known as flashback. In 1899, Bedford lives in a romantic spot, Cherry Cottage, next to the Canal Walk and Diamond Church. His fiancée, Catherine, known as Kate, arrives by car, driving herself, and visiting the house for the first time. Implies that Bedford is in financial difficulties by a letter about his rent being well past due. They meet a nearby neighbor, inventor Joseph Caver, who wants to buy the cottage just in case his experiment should damage it. Kate agrees to this on Bedford's behalf. Bedford begins spending time in Caver's where the inventor is a huge laboratory developed a substance called laborite, which will let anything it is applied to or made it or nullify the force of gravity. He plans to use it to travel to the moon. Bedford deeds down, drawn up, and signed in Kate's name, selling the cottage to Caver for £5,000. In reality, he's selling something he does not own. Caver tempts Bedford by telling him that there are gold nuggets on the moon. He has already built a spherical spaceship in the greenhouse next to the cottage. There is lined with green velvet and has electric lights. There's even an explosion at Caver's house just as Kate arrives at the cottage. This is caused by Caver's assistant Gibbs leaving for a local pub instead of watching the boiler used for processing the culverite. He shows her deep-sea diving suits intended to keep them both alive while on the lunar surface. Production of cover is increased. Kate brings some things for the trip, gin and bitters, chickens, and an elephant gun, but she gives Bedford an ultimatum. Have a right or me. Back to the cottage, Kate is served by a summons by a bailiff, accompanied by a silent policeman. She has been charged with selling the property she does not own. Bedford and Caver are just about to leave when Kate angrily hammers on the outside of the sphere, wanting to know what he's done. Pull her inside just before the sphere launches. On the long journey to the moon, they eat only sardines. It's not explained how the craft is steered, but opening a blind causes the sphere to veer towards the sun. They eventually crash land on the lunar surface. Both men don diving suits. Kate is placed inside an airtight compartment because she is unable to accompany them. While exploring the lunar surface, Bedford and Caver fall down a vertical shaft where there is breathable air. They discover an insectoid population of selenite, living beneath the surface in large caverns. Caver coins his name to the creatures after the Greek goddess of the moon, Selene. While being herded by them, Bedford attacks a group of satellites out of the sphere, killing several despite Caver's horrified protest. After escaping, two men discover the sphere, still containing Kate, has been dragged into the underground city. They are attacked by a giant caterpillar-like moon bull, which pursues them until the Selenites are able to dispatch it with their ray guns. Caver and Bedford seize the city's power station, a perpetual motion machine powered by sunlight. Selenites quickly learn English and interrogate Caver, who believes they wish to exchange scientific knowledge. Caver has a delusion of the Grand Lunar, discussion with the Grand Lunar, the ruling entity of the Selenites. Bedford makes the assumption that Caver and presumably all mankind is on trial. He attempts to kill the Grand Lunar with the elephant gun, failing because Caver's interference. Now running for their lives, if Bedford manages to find the spirit, he and Kate are able to make an escape. Caver voluntarily stays behind on the moon. Bedford flies to steer up to the vertical shaft of light, shattering the massive window light covering on the top, and he and Kate return to Earth. Concludes the story by mentioning that they came down in the sea coast off the coast of Zanzibar, their spirit sinking without a trace. They managed to swim ashore. Caver's ultimate fate remained unknown to them. In the present, Bedford and the UN party and the newspaper reporters watch on television these latest events on the moon. The UN astronauts have broken into the Selenites' underground city and find it deserted and decayed. The ruined city begins to crumble and collapse, forcing the astronauts to hastily retreat to the surface. Seconds later, the entire lunar city is completely destroyed. Bedford realizes the Selenites must have succumbed to Caver's common cold virus, to which they had no immunity. Boy, after you heard that story, you think, oh, wow, H.G. Wells, once again. How about that? He steals from himself. Okay, here's the story. What we're going to do is we are going... Oh, Peter Finch was the bailiff. How about that? Celebrity who said nothing. Never mind, I'm just reading some of the credit info here. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to take check-in. After I take check-in, and I'll ask you if you've seen the movie or not. After that, we'll ask you about the plot. What did you think about it? If you did see the movie, if you didn't, that's okay. We can ask you what you think about the plot that was read to you. Second round, we'll talk about and take additional check-in. Second round, we'll talk about the acting and the characterization. Third round will be special effects and probably anything else that we want to discuss or something that you may have thought of that I did not mention in the previous two rounds. So here we begin. I'm going to go ahead and take your call sign, phonetically please, your name, and did you see First Men in the Moon from 1964? And that is optional. You don't have to have seen it. You just have to let us know. Check in. So let's get started.
Someone has to go first. November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. I have only seen a tiny part of it, but I have read the book more than once. NT5, TM.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jane or Weber. I did happen to see this weird film.
Okay, we've got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yes, he saw it, and he's read the book twice. Okay, KG5BZW, or at least more than once. KG5BZW, Jay near Rutherford. Yes, he saw the film. Additional check-ins, please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo. Sean from Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this film.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise at Arlington. Yes, I saw the film.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I kind of saw it while I was listening to TechNet and doing something else, so I'll be drafting off of you guys in V5F.
All right, we picked up three more. We got KB5SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, he
saw it. KI5KWG, Cruz in Arlington, yes, he saw it. NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth, yes, she sort of saw it. Okay, anyone else before we get started, please come with your call. Your name, did you see First Men on the Moon?
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto, yes, I saw it.
And we picked up Brenda, WB50ZL in DeSoto, and she said she saw them in film. Okie dokie, this is what we'll do. We'll just go ahead and go down the list in order of check-ins. So we will start with Tony. He was very enthusiastic about this film. I can tell from 5 p.m. What you think about the plot, our kickoff topic, our question. Go ahead, from KE5IC. Yes, you did hear that note of guilt in my voice for not having seen the movie, which I really meant to, because I do actually own the book on which the movie is based, and I have read it more than once. It is not one of Wells's best books. He's famous now as a science fiction writer, but he actually, much like Winston Churchill, earned his living as a journalist. Churchill was, of course, a famous politician, but he was a minor son of the nobility, and he had to make his fortune on his own as a war correspondent and as a author of books. Churchill was actually a best-selling author before he became a politician. Likewise, H.G. Wells was famous for writing books like The Time Machine and War of the Worlds, but that's not really what he did. It sort of was a profitable hobby. He was a journalist, so when he wanted to write short, hard-hitting things, he knew exactly how to cut, because he had his articles cut by so many hundreds of editors. He knew exactly what to leave out. So while this was not his best book, it was certainly short and effective and to the point. And one of the main points in the book that I was glad to see, the little bit I saw of the movie echoed, was to take pains to establish just how unreliable our narrator is. He is the sole survivor of some sort of exploring expedition, but of course, he's also just a willing and habitual liar. In the book, at least, he talks about, I feel regret because I signed for, beer and meat and bread on credit, and the baker seemed especially nice, but that made me feel a little guilty because I knew I was never going to pay any of these people. And yet, he is our sole witness to all the extraordinary things that happen. So, I have seen so little of the movie that I meant to see so much of. It's just been an intensely busy past few days. And I feel guilty about that, but I at least did see that promise that although they did have a bigger frame story in the movie with the United Nations moon probe, they were also thinking, I've sunk all my money into selling off, 10-year-old war surplus food from the Second Boer War. But as soon as I find a buyer for it, I'll be rich. Yeah, right. So I found the plot promising, but I can't say much more than that. It seems faithful to the spirit of the dishonesty of the narrator. NT5TM. Very good. Thank you, Tony. You brought up a wonderful point, and I'll get back to it in a little bit about the point of view. I think that is so cool, and that you brought that up because we frequently forget about that in storytelling. Next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think about the plot for First Men in the Moon from 1964?
This is KG5BZW. Sorry. One sec.
Okay. Movie. Hey, not sure where to begin. I kind of hoping Tony would happen to share at least a little bit about the plot of the book. I guess we could probably, I don't know what to say. Because there's just got self-consistency issues, which maybe, in light of the unreliable narrator, we could maybe dismiss a little bit of it, but as a viewer of a movie, knowing what happened the last few minutes, last half hour, they repeated repeatedly said, "Oh, you weigh roughly 1/6 the weight," but yet there's this giant hole, and they struggle to lift each other up, even though just about like 5 minutes before you saw what was his name? This guy that named Cavarite, the wacko scientist that got him on the journey. He was jumping around on the moon surface, and it was like, yeah, woo, yeah, he's right. It gets actually kind of consistent with the gravity, but yet somehow magically down below, some things just get really hard. And don't explain that. And there's, of course, the silly, of course you're going to have some things you don't explain, but stuff like that, just, I really wish these guys would think that we had a little bit more memory than that of a goldfish when they produced this thing. It just, I don't know. I was a kid to write a list of I hate to call them sins, but just ridiculous occurrences in the film, and I just don't want to engage in that much energy to do it. And here's the funny thing. This is the one thing about this film made me realize. Hate it. I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's an annoying film. It's like there's this. It's not. I don't know if it's orthogonal orthogonal is what I'm trying to say. To bad or not. It seems like there's still a few vectors that are intermixed with bad, whatever. I'm not being facetious, pretentious, and frankly stupid, but I can see value in the film. I just don't see value in the story as it was shown. As I guess what I was trying to say earlier is like I wanted to know a little bit more about the book if the book was really this bizarrely contrived. That's all I can say. I hope I haven't like poisoned the well or anything for everybody else, but I just thought this was just very weird and very kind of honestly insulting to the viewers. But anyway, my two sets, KG5 BGW.
B5SOK, what'd you think of the plot for First Man on the Moon?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I found the plot of the just a little bit ridiculous, to be honest. I try to think of it how you would have watched this in the 60s when it was made. Obviously, we hadn't been to the moon yet, but it seemed like they didn't have particularly good information when he wrote this. I don't remember our first landing on the moon finding a British flag in a note, but it just, even from the beginning, the whole thing seemed kind of ridiculous. Basically a giant steel sphere that if you magically paint it with material that would instantly remove gravity, but only when the shades were covering the windows, which made no sense because even when they were retracted, would they still repel gravity? So there's a lot of these things that's like they didn't really think this through. I mean, I think they'd been better off had they just come up with his own special rocket fuel or something, because that method just seemed completely ridiculous. Almost like they were almost trying to make it seem like a comedy out of it, which didn't really work. Of course, every scientist, which is, I guess, is more into characterization, but they always got to make them seem like they're nuts and crazy, but yet they're geniuses. Of course, the guy was very eccentric. But yeah, the whole thing just didn't make any sense at all. Definitely would not survive in space the way it was designed. And I guess apparently NASA's wasting millions and hundreds of millions of dollars on spacesuits because apparently all we need is a diving suit. Apparently that works perfectly fine. That seems bizarre as well. And just the stuff they chose to take with them, like a shaver and shaving cream and white sardines as food. Just none of it made any sense at all. And maybe that was just the humor of the time, and I'm just not getting it. But I thought that was, it started off pretty rocky just because of that. And then somehow or another they got flown towards the sun because she hit the controls, and they were there almost instantly. And then he was back towards the moon, and that seemed to take a while. And then gave no thought to the landing of this thing. It just kind of went on from one scenario after another. It's just kind of being ridiculous to finding our aliens that were inside the moon hanging out, and apparently highly technological, but yet they didn't seem to have a way to really defend themselves or fly anywhere. They had all this technology. They were, of course, fearful of the humans. Of course, the scientists start right off the bat telling them about war, which, once again, if you're trying to make a good impression, is not really how you'd start a conversation. So it's just one little thing after another. To me, it just didn't seem to make a lot of sense. Of course, I know they had to come up with some reason to want to escape from them, and of course, that was kind of a quick way to get there. I felt that the movie did kind of drag on a little longer than it should have. It kept me somewhat entertained at the beginning, but as it went on, I started to actually kind of get pretty bored with it, and was kind of wanting it to kind of conclude and get somewhere. There's once they got on the moon and they were kind of trapped there, it seemed like it slowed down quite a bit. And then, I don't know. To me, the plot didn't make a whole lot of sense as far as that goes. They didn't put a lot of thought into the technological part. I get the point they were trying to make about, obviously, like you mentioned earlier, the contamination that he borrowed from another story. Obviously that is something scientists are concerned about as we travel, obviously germs, and then, that's probably the only part of that seemed realistic, that obviously human germs could very well wipe out another people, so that part was one part that actually made some sense, was the ending there, but, it just seemed weak overall. And I'm guessing the book must be pretty good if you read it twice. But the overall movie, I felt that it felt a little short. But anyway, that's all I got. Back to net. KB9S, okay.
Yeah, I'm sensing a vibe here from the folks who watch the film. Something quite right. Okay, this is KE5ICX and Next Control for tonight's Expo Movie Net. We're talking about First Men in the Moon from 1964. Next on the list is Cruz, KI5KWG. What'd you think of the plot, Cruz?
KI5KWG. A little frustrating, I think, is it couldn't make up its mind. It started off, and so this is going to be whimsical, and ended up with, on the way to a death struggle and serious political commentary. They tried to work in a romance, I guess, and damsel in distress at all. It didn't know where it was going, and I didn't really care after a while. So it was probably, I guess, say, worthwhile. It just didn't do anything important or serious or particularly memorable in it. I wanted to add one thing, and maybe y'all can help. I read a short story probably 10 years ago in some anthology where there was some inert anti-gravity device. Some guy, and I think it was in England, had supposedly invented, and he and his wife had all sorts of wonderful adventures in the countryside with it. And I thought that story did so much more with the concept than this one did. And I don't remember who wrote it, so if that rings a bell with anybody, let me know who the author was of that short story. I was intrigued by the opening credits having a thanks to NASA, and then had to go look and see what that was. Let me reset. And it had to do with the two-part dropping the lunar lander from lunar orbit. And I was like, oh, well, that was kind of cool. And I suppose some of the radio transmissions and the uniforms probably were influenced by NASA. I thought it was interesting that they had the global celebration upon setting foot on the moon, and 5 years before Armstrong, and they pretty much nailed the excitement that took place there. And let's see, 2 more comments. I thought it was a Kubrick-esque lunar landscape, and with the tall, towering pieces that was typical in sci-fi films up until we got there. And the last thing I did like, and this really probably doesn't really belong in sets and special effects, but just a clever idea, was the netting cage for traveling in weightless. And I was thinking, that's probably a pretty good idea, and maybe they ought to actually use that. Okay, that's what I had on plot and basic presentation. This is KI5KWG, back to net.
We're in Fort Worth, Virginia. What'd you think about the plot for our movie tonight?
KE5ICX in the net. This is Indy5F. Well, like I said, I kind of had my attention divided, and I wasn't really watching really closely, especially once they got on the moon and got into the more sort of typical Victorian-era science fiction vision of, the moon or Mars. We usually have that typical, we can't detect any alien life because they all live underground, and there's some kind of weird green people or bugs or whatever. I actually found the framing device, once I figured out I kind of figured out that that's what it was right up front, because it was an H.G. Wells, novel, so surely there wasn't stuff in his novel about NASA and the UN and all that. And I found that kind of cool, that they were definitely giving a big nod to the times, the mid-'60s. Everybody knew that the U.S. and Russia were trying to beat each other to the moon, and I think it was kind of a high concept thing to go, well, let's take a Victorian-era science fiction story that's totally different than everything we've discovered since then and all the science we have now, And let's see if we can frame that in like the context of what's going on with us trying to go to the moon. So I actually thought that was like a pretty cool idea. I think a framing device like that, if the whole thing is done well, it can come out pretty good. You know, and then he goes into the flashback, and then it's kind of like you're watching, you know, kind of a, I mean, it's definitely a Victorian era. It even had sort of like a Mary Poppins feel, and actually Mary Poppins came out the same year this movie did. Even the guy like stuck to the ceiling, you know, with the chair, and I was like, wow, this is like very Disney-esque at moments. And that was, I found that interesting, you know, the Technicolor look and the crispness of the British, you know, mannerisms and all that, and the way they did that on film. You know, I kind of liked that stuff. I wasn't kind of freaked out by the you know, kind of quaint nature of the story and the old school story, because I think the idea was, let's take this old school sci-fi story and go, what if those guys were right, and we go to the moon and we find out that somebody's already been there, you know, in the steampunk era, and they actually got there, and there were monsters living under the moon, but I will honestly say that when the plot, once they got to the moon and the plot got kind of convoluted with them in the cavern and the bug creatures and the head lunatic or whoever was down there, I was really not paying a whole lot of attention at that point, and I knew that the guy would get back to Earth because he was, you know, he was aged and living in a nursing home, and everybody thought he was nuts. I liked Cruise's remark about Kubrick-esque since this came out 4 years before 2001. However, they were developing 2001 at the time this came out. They were developing that movie for quite a few years before it came out. I think they started developing it like in 63 or something like that. And I will honestly say I prefer Arthur C. Clarke type more feasible science fiction. I've never really gone for the over-the-top, you know, stuff. Some of the movies are fun, like John Carter and you know, those. And I watched the Time Machine movie, the newer one, and I thought it was dreary and horrible. I will honestly say I haven't seen the classic version of that. And then I saw this funny thing that came out in the 70s called Time After Time. It was a take on H.G. Wells from a modern framing device. It was kind of interesting. Watched that a ton of times when I was a kid. But I'll give it an A for effort for, you know, kind of a whimsical attempt at wedging a Victorian style science fiction story into modern times. And I really liked when they first got to the moon and the international people in the capsule. They had people from all over the world, and I liked the spacecraft design, and I liked the overall feel. They were getting a good sense of what the technology really was like and felt like, and you know, and you think, oh, this is going to be some serious movie about going to the moon, and then they find this Union flag on the moon, and it turns all crazy, and so I'm gonna be a little nicer to it than everybody has been. It was a little whimsical. It was a little bit of everything. It was, you know, it was classic, kind of classic sci-fi, you know, pre 1960s sci-fi, 40s and 50s style. I liked the cinematography. I'm getting probably into part 3 at this point, but anyway, I thought it was okay. I might watch it a little closer in the future. Back to net, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. So we got the thumbs up on that one. Next up is Brenda, WV5OZL. Brenda, what'd you think about tonight's movie's plot, which is First Man in the Moon from 1964 from KE5I6?
This is WV5OZL. Well, it's not the worst movie we've ever seen. I don't know why the moon is always populated by very unlikely creatures and unlikely scenarios. you know, it's like, oh, well, there's air here. And they don't, you know, just a basic explanation of what, well, not really an explanation. We just accept that for some reason there's air, and they can take off their helmets. How many times have we seen this in these moon movies? The basic storyline wasn't so bad. People go to the moon and discover somebody during the Victorian time managed to get there first and keep it a secret. That's not terribly far-fetched, but so much of the movie was far-fetched. Those creatures were hideous. Of course, I just love Harryhausen. I went to a convention once, and he was there as a guest, and he had a briefcase, and he opened it up, and he brought out all these little skeletons. They were actually the ones that he used in Jason the Argonauts, which I just thought was the coolest thing ever. I'm just a huge fan of his, and, you know, he was probably the best thing about this movie. So, you know, we're asked to suspend belief a lot in science fiction movies, and we did hear that the spaceship was pretty dumb. Don't know how they steered it, or how they got there so fast, and I'm not really even sure how we explain the substance they were painting on the spaceship. But, you know, it was all controlled. So, well, I'll talk about the main character later, the younger guy, later when we get to personalities. I guess that's all I have to say about the plot. Back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Well, and that's down at the bottom of the list here. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Well, actually, I don't even need to know that, but if you'd let me know if you've seen the movie First Man in the Moon from 1964. Please come now. All right, well, no problem. The usual suspects are here. Let's see, some of the plot things. I found the film, I remember watching this as a kid. In fact, I think it was in, the last time I saw this film was way back in, right around in the early 70s, 71 or 72. I can tell you the exact date if I go and actually research it, because what's quite fascinating about it is that the last time I saw it was on television, back in the early 70s, there was a lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse that day, it was a Saturday, and it was with Sir Graves Ghastly, which was Saturday, similar to Svengoolie, if you're familiar with Svengoolie. We had our own haunted occult movie host, and he was showing First Men in the Moon that day, obviously for the reasons that we're talking about today. So I'll go back and see if I can find it. I thought it was 72, but that's incorrect because that was on a Thursday. I lived in Detroit at the time. But that was the last time I saw it until last night. So things that impressed me, I guess, is first off, it took them forever to get to the moon. At least to get in the spacecraft bumper car thing. And that drove me nuts because it just kept going on and on and on and on. Yeah, and my little description thing, marrying it with Mary Poppins, it felt very similar, and yes, they did come out at the same time, so I'm with you on that one, Virginia. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me either. If you're going to do a science fiction film or even science fantasy, to a certain extent, you have to kind of like, how I describe it, somehow or another buy into the storyline. And I don't know. This group is an unusual group. I think we're all intellectually curious, and it's sometimes hard for us to suspend reality on certain things, even though it's in science fiction and fictional emphasis on the fiction part. But it really is difficult to watch something and to see that the technical aspects of it are violated regularly, and that's what happened with this film. The weightless material, I suppose, could be justified to a certain extent, but the spacesuits, which were diving helmets and all that, and this gets into the technical part, but I think this also breaks into the actual storyline, too. When you see things that are blatantly wrong, it takes you out of the storyline. You can't believe it. And it goes back to, I like Arthur C. Clarke. Give me Arthur C. Clarke. It's hard fiction, hard science fiction, and I can enjoy it better because I don't have to sit there and try and justify why am I watching all of this illogical stuff happen. So there's that. The thing that they mentioned about opening with just one of the blinds. What was her name? Sally, I think her name. Accidentally opens it up. Kate opens it up, and that senses the bumper car spaceship headed for the sun. Really? Well, we're going to get away from that. And then they get back on course. How big is the solar system? 300 feet by 300 feet? Why is that always the case in these really bad science fiction films? Everything is really close to one another. I don't know. It's just crazy. And what was that thing with the Batman? What's his name? From ER. He was, same thing. All the space stations are close to one another. And just look out the window and you can see the next thing. I mean, come on. Don't do that to me. It drives me nuts. Audiences, I watched this film and I was a kid. I was in grade school or junior high. I was expecting something, a little better than what we got. It came out when the kids were all watching the space program anyway, but maybe that's why it was hard to swallow. Now, I understand you have to further the plot, but how the heck were they able to land in exactly the same place as the UN Space Agency landed on the moon? They landed exactly the same place as the little bumper car thing did, and just happened to be walking on, oh, look, a Union Jack over here in a letter. Look, and it's perfectly preserved. Nothing happened. Not like X-rays or, unprotected stuff could cause everything to go blank. You wouldn't be able to see it, including the Union Jack. And just have to find it quite amazing. Also, wouldn't they have seen, footprints? Yeah, footprints, because they stay on the moon forever. Footprints of people walking around in diving suits. That should have been there. I don't know. I digress. One thing, too, is I seem to, as a kid, I remember this film being better than what it turned out to be. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't in the mood for it. I was very tired last night watching it, and I did fall asleep in the final 15 minutes. So I guess I was waiting. I was becoming impatient and wanted to see this thing go somewhere. And it really took a long time, and when it did, the way it plodded along, and I agree with, I think Tony mentioned it, that, here he said, now I forgot what I got reset, and then I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, I had one of those moments. I forgot what I was going to say. That's okay. I'll come back to it later. All right. Well, that's enough for me on that one. Let's now go to characterization and the acting in the film. We'll go ahead and make that the next round. So, Tony, NT5TM. Tony. I wish I could remember my comment I was going to say about something you said, but I'll get it on the next round when I think of it. So go ahead, Tony. What did you think about characterization and the acting on our fine film this week?
Thank you, Tom. I've watched a little bit more of the movie, although not much more because I had to keep stopping it because people keep saying interesting things. My main thing that I noticed with the plot round was that they sure did capture the unreliability of the narrator because that seemed to be one of the central features of the novel. And, well, I haven't seen much more to contradict that. The movie, we have noticed that someone is trying to sell property they don't even own. We're going to take you to court. Whoopsie. As far as characters, the main thing that I have noticed in what I have seen is that they did also do a good job. It feels so strange to keep praising this movie that I haven't seen much of capturing the weirdness of Dr. Cavor. I've just noticed that all of his security guards for his secret laboratory are geese. Geese, yes, the animal that consistently beats me up and loves Aaron. Geese, the animals that honk at everyone. There are just the enemies of all strangers. Geese. You know, they're really something as guard animals, but hardly anyone realizes that. So, they've sure, really, he just can't stop moving, he can't stop talking. He doesn't make the zoo-zoo-zoo sound that he seemed to make in the book, but I think we can overlook that because they sure did make him seem very strange. And I'm happy that Mr. I can't remember how you say it, Thetford, the narrator also seems to be a complete lying cat. So, again, I haven't seen that much of the movie, but it does seem to do justice to the book. You know, it's nothing like 2001. I may have a couple of science comments in the third round. You know, the science in this movie really holds up. But the central element of Cavor as a complete, eccentric, strange person and our narrator as a lying cat continues to hold up. So they sure got the essence of the characters right so far. 5 TM.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tony. The lying cat. Yeah, I think that. I was going to mention that as well. The point of view or perspective of whoever your narrator is always fascinating because people forget that when a story is being told, it is a story being told by a human, and as such, those things then are susceptible to error and mismanagement. And the facts are not exactly the facts. Anyone who's read any history also knows that because whoever tells that story has to get that, unless they're first-person observer, that information has to come from somewhere, and in court that would be hearsay. So the thing about it is that when you're doing work fiction, your narrator also is an observer of sorts, and whatever comes out as whatever the observer decides it's going to be. And I think that's kind of cool because there's been plot-driven stories based on just that alone, where you have multiple people visualizing an event and then they explain it, and it's slightly different from all different angles, which is always kind of fun. All right, next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what do you think of characterization in our fine film, First Men in the Moon from 1964?
I can appreciate an unreliable narrator and how just as you said, you have a story with different views, and even with I don't want to call people honest because that's let's call them not dishonest, like no, that's just calling him a liar. He's a liar. It's interesting when a film actually explores, certain things from an unreliable perspective, but they don't really ignore the inconsistencies. This is not that kind of film. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense from one connect, and it's all just. I'm trying to go back to the character development and all of that. I think the first part where we see Cavour and well, I actually don't even care about the character's name that much, because after they go to the moon, it really, I think, breaks down. It wasn't exactly great to that point. I mean, it had some nice aspects. I mean, I hate to use the word nice. It had, yes, that whimsical property. Sorry. There are aspects that I can appreciate. I'll just leave it at that. It goes, when they visit the moon, it just gets really weird. Yeah, I was listening on the radio, and it Echolink was doing something a little weird. So, I mean, Catherine does a pretty good job for, I think that's her name, Catherine, I suppose, for what little effort she, what little she was given to do. My apologies, I still got a call from some aunt. Yeah, the guy is very strange. The flyer is Eli. Trip. And okay, not sure what else to say. It just the whole central part of the story is the trip to the moon, and it just doesn't make that much sense. It was a good show of special effects for, Ray Harryhausen type special effects. But it just wasn't that much. That it's just, I know I'm getting off of characters, but once you get to the moon and you don't really have that much character development, you know what the actors are kind of going to do just from the previous parts of the film, and they do it, and kind of hard to say anything about character development when the characters start acting. Well, it just the whole scenario just gets to be a little bit too much for me. That's just doesn't really. I just don't know. I'll hand it to the next person. Thank you, Bobby.
Okay, Jay, were you done? I think you were, but I couldn't tell because you dropped.
Yes. KG5BZW, back now.
All right, thank you. I was about 99% sure, but I didn't want to jump in if you were not done, so I wanted to make sure. Okay, next up is Sean, KB5SOK. Sean, your comments on characterization, the acting in our fine film this night.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, you know, the scientist was definitely an eccentric scientist for sure. We've seen this in many, many films, and once again, it seems like all scientists are portrayed this way. But we've all met eccentric people, and sometimes they can definitely do some strange things. You know, met one guy. He made all his staff use dustbusters to clean instead of vacuum cleaners. He had walls covered with them, and so yeah, but yet he seemed to be a smart guy, but definitely strange. So yeah, using geese as security, and so yeah, why not? So I do think he played that part well. You know, and once he got to the moon, he did want to befriend the aliens, or the creatures, whatever you like to call them. So I do think he did a fairly well job of that. I will give the movie that. Our quote-unquote shyster, guy always looking for the next best thing around the corner, always plotting. Yeah, I do feel that he played that well. I do feel that was, you know, he definitely portrayed those kind of people. He was even willing to portray his, you know, his what appeared to be his future wife, you know, just for that next chance to make money. And I do think he played that well. You know, he was fine, apparently, you know, setting her up to go to prison. You know, because what if he never made it back from the moon? You know, then she would have went to jail for fraud. You know, you don't do that to somebody you're about to marry. So yeah, I do think he played that well. You know, I don't know that I cared for his character and the way he was treating people, but he did, you know, obviously once he got there, then it seemed like he wanted to become the hero and save them. So maybe he had a change of heart about, you know, not being quite so greedy, wanting to do something good. Of course, because he's been self-preservation as well. So yeah, I do think that he was portrayed pretty well. The young lady, I think she was okay, even though I think she played it fine. But once again, as far as the actual character, you know, the fact that she was willing to forgive him within a day for almost sending her to jail, you know, I don't think most people would forgive somebody for doing that. So yeah, it just seemed like she very quickly changed her mind and seemed to be okay with being pulled into this adventure. So I think the acting was just okay. It wasn't nothing spectacular, but I do think that for what it was probably adequate. And really, those were our three characters. There really wasn't much else. I mean, obviously we had the science Bureau trying to investigate it and meeting, you know, the one guy there at the insane asylum, and but there wasn't much there as far as that goes. I don't know if there was a lot of character growth for any of them in this film. It was just one of those short to the point science fiction little romps. So I don't think it really was meant to do that. But yeah, that's what I got to say about characters. Wasn't a whole lot there other than that. So yeah, back to that. KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, your thoughts on characterization and the acting for our movie First Men in the Moon.
KI5KWG. Not much in this area. I thought the three main characters were adequate. I'd have to say that the inventor was probably... well, he was having fun, and it showed. That's how I looked at it. So he was probably the more entertaining character anyway. But I thought as an actor, he was carrying him at least his own way in it. I kept waiting for Dick Van Dyke to show up. It just seemed like such a movie he'd been in those days. And in fact, it was reminding me of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I thought, when did Ian Fleming write that? Sure enough, he wrote it the same year this came out. And I thought, yeah, this film may have inspired him. Or maybe the producers and directors and actors, maybe some of them knew Ian Fleming and they kind of worked with each other, but or bounced things off each other. But I guess that's all I've got on this. KI5, KWG, back to net.
All right, thank you, Cruz. Next, Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, your thoughts on characterization and the acting in our fine film from KE5ICX.
Well, I thought it was a pretty well cast movie. Everybody seemed to suit their role, especially for the aesthetic of the time. I liked the contrast of the, kind of seriousness of the moon landing and the opening sequence, and then the whimsical flashback where it was, about 65 years in the past, and it did have that. We keep referencing Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins, and it did have that quality, and the characters had that crisp, turn of the century feeling to them, and you had the kind of kooky people, and I think the casting of all the characters was pretty good, and I think that the story was pretty. I haven't read the book. I kind of like the idea that a couple people have mentioned of that the book itself makes a point that the person narrating the story is unreliable, which is kind of a refreshing thing, because that's true. Everybody's version of a story is going to be slightly different than everybody else's, and we all have our aspects of our personalities that make some part of whatever story we tell is going to be somewhat unreliable. I thought they played all the stereotypes pretty well. The quality of the acting was good. The quality of the characters was pretty good. There was a good diversity, I thought it was fine. I thought the acting and the characterization was just fine, and it was definitely suitable in each part of the story, the framing part, and then the actual story. And like I said before, I'll defend this as sort of an excuse to make a Victorian era science fiction movie and have it be maybe, I guess, interesting to people of the mid '60s. Almost in a style of some of the popular musicals around that time. Let's make it a little whimsical, but frame it with current events, and make a little contrast between that and the current day, and see if we can bridge the gap. And I think they did okay. I think it was pretty well done. KE5.
Thank you, Virginia. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what did you think of the characterization and the acting in our fine film, First Men in the Moon, from 1964?
This is WB50ZL. Well, there were three main characters, and I didn't like any of them. Cavar was a nut and kind of inconsiderate, irresponsible at times. And then Catherine was an idiot for going with this guy who was going to put her in jail. And she just kept forgiving him, even though he was stupid. And then he was again, not the brightest person in the world, so one of those things where you just want to yell at the characters, just stop it, stop being dumb. But the characters were fairly well cast by the actors, I'll have to say that. I just didn't care for the characters. And it was very Disney-esque. In fact, it with the chair going up to the ceiling, that was just dumb. And it's like it was written for children. And, not very believable or serious at all. I'm still, as we had mentioned earlier when we were talking about the plot, I'm still disturbed by the timeline. This was in 1964. In 64, we were just a few years away from sending a spaceship to the moon to land on it. And they didn't seem to, these people didn't seem to realize that they were way behind in technology and scientific knowledge. I really didn't like the way they didn't have gloves on. There just wasn't any money spent on those costumes at all. And they could have done so and done so cheaply if they had just studied it. The alien, the bug people, the aliens, they were just one-dimensional. They didn't have any personality. They didn't have any. There was no development there of motivation or what kind of people they were, and thought that was a weak point. They should have, they were just kind of like ants. It would have been more interesting had they developed personalities for them. Okay, back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And hey, you just gave me a clue as to what I wanted to say, and I was trying to figure out what was wrong. But first, I'll go ahead and ask if there are any additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey.
Hey, K5JDW, John, welcome to the Late Night Net, and congratulations on your retirement. I heard about that on the grapevine today. Did you get a chance to see First Men in the Moon, or are you just checking in to say hi?
I probably saw that movie a long time ago, but I don't remember. I don't remember right now. I was just listening in. Just wanted to check in, just to add to the count. That's all. Let you know I'm in the background there somewhere. And thanks for letting me know. Thanks for the retirement statement. And a little later, I'll get you if you're still on after this. If you want to talk, I'll talk to you about the light over the lake. K5 JDW.
Very good. By the way, I did see the light. I don't know what it's all about. I got my suspicions, but we can talk about that at a later time. Well, thank you for checking in, John, and being out there. Okay, my thoughts on the characterization. Well, I know that they cast a type on this, and I know that they wanted to give Jeffries a little bit of Caver, the character, a little bit of a comedic slant. I think that was an added thing to it. maybe in the writing and that, but overall, I think it kind of, even though I respect Lionel Jeffries and he's a great actor and all of that, I didn't buy into it as much as, say, I don't know, let's look at Dr. Brown from Back to the Future. Now, there's a character we cared about. He was funny. He was spur of the moment. He was a genius, obviously. He made the time machine. So building a spaceship is sort of the same thing. A lot of fun, kind of a loose cog. Caber was as well, but not quite to the same extent. I mean, he says, elephant gun. Well, we won't be shooting any elephants on the thing. But it would have been funnier to say, well, I hadn't thought there might be elephants on the moon. Maybe I should have looked into that before we left. You know, something like that to suggest that he's a little nuttier than he might appear. So he actually could be a little more crazy, I guess, would have been nice if you're going to go in that direction. If you're going to go in the whimsical direction, you might as well take it all the way. Going part of the way with, you've only got an ensemble cast, 3 people, trying to work off of each other with a kind of a script going back and forth. It was okay, but it was just okay. And I'm looking at my watch going, I really could go to sleep right about now, which I did anyway. I just fell out because it was moving so. But the key to this is what was mentioned a little here earlier about the antagonist. You're talking about the bug people. They weren't interesting at all. They were very one-dimensional. They were easily, susceptible to impressions and things, and they just kind of just sat around, like your lazy uncle that comes over and won't go home at night after drinking all your beer. And you want to get rid of him. The aliens were like that. I didn't care. They were just boring. I kept waiting for him to pull out the canasta board. Actually, that probably would have improved it some. So that was a problem. The Disney-esque part that we were talking about at the beginning, that's exactly what I was thinking, which is why I wrote it the way I did. My little thing is that was a tip the hat to, of course, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And that's definitely what it looked like and what it felt like. And it felt like a Disney film. Maybe that's where I was going with my previous comments, is that, it is acting seems thin, and superficial to a certain degree. There's no real drama, worry part of it. Oh, we'll be fine. Pull Kate in. We'll get her in the spaceship. She's not in any danger. She's in danger, but not really. Everybody's fine. It just didn't quite ring true. So, what do you want to be? You want to be a drama? You want to be a comedy? But if you're going to be a comedy, comedies also have serious parts to them. Contrast that helps to provide impact. They didn't have that. It was kind of just the story and the acting that went along with it fits with the technology and part of it too. None of it seems real in any way, shape, or form. I can't buy into the characters because I can't buy into the situation. I can't buy into the technology because the technology doesn't seem real. I mean, look at examples of, I guess I'm digressing a little bit, but look at example of films with like the steampunk thing. That was an example of one. A good one is from the television show Wild Wild West. That's steampunk of sorts, and it felt like there was a bit of air of authenticity to it. Your actors could act off of, or your characters could act off of whatever the diabolical thing was, and who the characters were. The antagonist in the thing. It was a menace. Now, granted, those stories were kind of formulaic. They always began and ended the same way, but they were always immensely entertaining. And you kind of bought into it enough that it was enjoyable, and you kept on going back every week. This one, not so much. I never felt really all that intrigued by it felt like all that, Victorian stuff should have like been really exciting and fun and somehow clever, and none of it is. It's utilitarian, stupid. Didn't really match anything. It didn't really give the elegancy of maybe going to the moon in a Victorian spaceship. It didn't quite ring. At least not the way I seem to remember it. I remember it more fondly than what the movie actually was, which is rather unusual for me. Usually it's the other way around. But at any rate, I don't know. I digress. Okay, that was my comments on that. Let's see. Oh, we've got 9-10 minutes. Here we go again. We're towards the end. Let me quickly go down the list. We'll see if anybody's got any comments on the special effects. So we'll start with Tony. Tony, what do you got on special effects? NT5TM from KE5ITX.
Well, sort of sad, really. Oh boy, I want to amplify your closing comments from round 2 there about characters. This movie made me wistfully want to rewatch The Man Who Would Be King with Sean Connery and Michael Caine. If you're going to talk about Victorians and not necessarily telling the truth, now there was a movie with some characters. This was not that movie. If all you want your astronauts to do is to die in amusing ways, those diving suits would have worked perfectly well on the moon. They wouldn't have lasted 20 minutes. But sadly, that's not what happened. So, the score was sort of adequate for its time. At least it was orchestral music, not weird synthesizer things. The effects were, kind of all entirely forgettable. And the acting was not so much, but at least the original H.G. Wells book had a great redeeming feature. It was short. NT5TM.
True that. Okay, next, KT5BZWJ. Special effects, what do you think?
This is KT5BZW. Yeah, special effects, definitely not one of Ray's best. Well, let me take this back. I like the settings. Even though it's the crazy crystal pieces, those were nice. I'll give you them that. There was certain production value in that. The animated, I mean, clearly those worms were kind of based off of caterpillars, and, well, of course, they're aliens, so there's no and so apparently they're alien and have endoskeletons, so, which, okay, yeah, I mean, sure, it looks like a giant caterpillar, but it's actually alien. I can buy that. So it would have been nice if the actual legs kind of worked, and they didn't really. A lot of the stuff was, well, I mean, you seem to have a two-layer system, a two-class system, or three-class, I should say. You had the leader, you had the directors, I guess. I don't know. Maybe, and then there's the common Selenites, which just kind of them whatever. They each had a different looking, different look to them, and that was kind of interesting to me. It was like, what is this? Is this? I mean, so is this guy based off of a ant, like a ant society kind of thing or something? That's actually something a little bit to think about. The collective society, like well, society, if you would want to call something like that a society. Just what type of. It reminded me of ants. I'm making it bigger than it really is. And I actually kind of like about that a little bit, but I don't know. I think I've said the interesting parts. There's not so interesting parts, which I think have already been covered and probably will still be covered, but and I better stop while I don't trigger my cough again. So I had to do the next person. KE5 ICX. This is KG5 BGW. Back to that.
All right, thank you, Jay, and thank you for your comments this evening. Sean, KB5, that's okay. Sean, on special effects.
Yeah, this is KB9S, okay. Well, the special effects, for the most part, I don't really think they were that special. The music and sound, I guess, was okay. I don't remember being particularly memorable with music, which I guess is okay. But yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of already covered some of the science issues at the beginning. I do agree with your comment, Tom, on the, when you get, when you're into science and stuff, sometimes, maybe it is hard to just relax and take a movie or an adventure like this for what it is, and not take it too seriously and just forget the science. Sometimes that's hard to do. Maybe at that time, you didn't think about that stuff as much, about how technologically correct it was. After all, kids like superhero movies, and obviously none of that's real, and they still accept it. So, yeah, I kind of get that. The only other part I'll mention now, that was kind of funny, but it's kind of ridiculous, was, when our scientist and our shyster decides to leave the capsule, and they leave her in there, and yeah, they did mention that, yeah, the oxygen was going to be gone, but yeah, they'll just put her in a closet and she'll be just fine. Not pressurized or anything, but she'll be just fine. So I thought, yeah, just little things like that just kind of takes you out of the moment a little bit. And so, yeah, you can go on about how bad the spaceship was, but I've seen other older movies where they've done a much better job with the spaceships and made them feel more, somewhat, some effort put into it. So anyway, that's about all I got. Once again, it's always fun to talk about this movie. Looking forward to next week. This is KB9SOK. Back to
Elvis has left the building.
All right, thank you, Sean. And yeah, I'm going to bring that up. I can't remember what next week's movie is. Okay, don't forget, everybody, we're back on the timer, so you may want to drop carrier on this final round. Otherwise, you'll time out the repeater. So, okay, I5KWG, Cruz, what do you think of special effects in our fine film this evening?
KI5KWG, special effects seem to be a lot better once I sped up the video to 1.5 speed. KI5KWG, back to net.
Ah, yes, speed watching, always the best. Okay, well, I'll take that as okay. NV5F, Virginia, what do you think of the special effects in our fine film this evening?
They were fair. They were about what you would expect. Like I said in the first round, I really liked the attempt in the opening sequence of, a moon capsule with all the. I mean, it was pretty large, all those people in it, but really, I want to talk about the opening sequence. I thought that was kind of cool. The open title sequence, it was kind of neato, and the music was pretty cool. It was kind of exciting, and I thought the graphics were pretty neat, and they got into the whole we're going to the moon thing, and I actually had a pretty auspicious beginning for me. Then the kind of optical effect of the thing landing on the moon was a little cheesy. When it was getting smaller and smaller as it got down toward the surface of the moon, and it kind of shifted around and looked a little bit goofy. But another thing that I thought was funny was the the diving suits as spacesuits. Diving suits are heavy. They're made of like solid brass or something, and I was thinking, man, I'm glad they're at least in the lunar gravity when they're wearing them, so they only weigh like, they only weigh 100 pounds instead of 600 pounds. So, I thought that was pretty hilarious that they were using diving suits as spacesuits, because those things are really, really heavy in real life. So anyway, I don't have much else to say. I just had a couple of funny points, and it was a pretty ridiculous movie, and like I established and others have, as far as science fiction goes, I prefer something that's more feasible. But I saw what they were trying to do with, let's contrast this style of science fiction with the current modern state of things. Let's try to wedge that in and say, well, what if this is the way things really are? And H.G. Wells and what's his face, Jules Verne and them, what if they were right? So I saw what they were trying to do, and it was a little bit of a convoluted attempt. But anyway, those are my points, and hoping next week's movie is pretty interesting. And also, I would suggest, if we could, I know Disney movies can be hard to get in streaming now. They're very protective of their stuff, but it made me think of the movie The Black Hole, Disney's attempt at being Star Wars. That movie's crazy fun to watch. Anyway, that's one I would suggest for the future if we could get it. Anyway, good.
Repeater, timeout for 15 seconds. The time is 12:05 a.m.
Dallas races next, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FT.
Timeout, timer, reset. Repeater enabled.
It's okay. We got you just as you were giving your call, Virginia, and then it went out. So don't forget to drop carrier. We're almost done anyway, but thanks for your comments. And yeah, we did the black hole once before, and you're right. I think it's going to be more and more difficult with Disney moving everything behind their paywall to actually see some of those films for free streaming. But keep an eye out. If you see it, let us know. We've redone movies before, simply because we got a new group of folks. We've been doing this for a number of years now. So new group of folks, new folks watching the film. Okay, let's see here. Next is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, your thoughts on special effects?
This is WB5OZL. Well, Christopher Harryhausen was the master in his day, and it was just simple stop action. He just spent a lot of time with it. He was very creative and inventive. So that was good. We take that kind of stuff for granted now, but in the day, it was really, really phenomenal. I thought that the spacecraft was kind of dumb. First of all, it was too small, and you just sit in this sling, this rope chair, and I always picture people in a spaceship sitting in a console and pushing buttons and checking all their equipment and everything, having an interactive role in the flying in the spacecraft. I thought the moon was improbable, although, I guess to move the story along, they had to do that. That's all I'm going to say. It's late and I'm tired. Back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, very good. Thank you, Brendan. I kind of agree with you a little bit. overall, the Ray Harryhausen stuff with the stop action I think was fun. You can see and understand stop action quite literally. It looks fake, lack of depth of field, things like that, which now, because of all the digital technology, allow much better special effects. Well, you got to remember, this is half a century ago now, more than half a century ago. So yeah, progression and special effects should be better. Although you only have a couple of years later, and you've got 2001: A Space Odyssey, which means still beats the tar out of most science fiction films. Some of them even today, by the way it looks and how it was done. So there's that. Let's see, the other special effects, yeah, I like the spaceship. The beginning was fine, no problems there. You can see the wires used when they were walking on the moon. And of course, I'm not on our, Victoria now, maybe? I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah, that didn't quite work out. Any school kid would know that based on the space program. So I think they underestimated their audience, as I mentioned earlier. I don't know. It was some of the other stuff too is the shots, composite shots were kind of herky jerky. I mean, it could have been done a little better, or spaceships flying away and it's kind of vibrating type of thing offline and things like that. The anti-gravity parts were better, but I think they just filmed those upside down, which is why they look the way they did. So there you have it. I don't have much more else to say either. We're now after the hour. So, okay, this is next week's movie. Everybody, listen up. I think we've done this one before, but it's been a while. If this is still running at the end of the month, I'll let you know. I may delay this, but I'll put it out, and if I have to change the movie, I will. Mad Max is on Pluto TV with ads, so I stuffed that one in there for the 6th. So Mad Max, the original Mad Max film that kicked it all off, we'll be watching that one. And that's it for me, KE5ICX, unless anybody's got any final comments. Go ahead. All right, thank you all for participating this evening. It's always fun. I enjoy it. Thank you for taking the time to watch the films and back and we'll talk about them. That's a little bit of a time investment on your part that you may not do. May keep coming back for more punishment, especially when the movies are, not good. So, but you never know. They could be good. Or there's something about them that's good. Okay, we'll see you next week. This is KE5ICX. That's clear. Well, I'm sort of clear. John, K5JDW, what's the blue light all about?
Hey, dude, good net. Hey, well, let me tell you. Let me make sure I'm on the air here. Yeah, I guess I am. What the deal is, man, what I did is I called the city of Louisville up, and he told me, well, they have their defective lights is what they are. I said, well, it's really weird because both of them are defective. I said, well, that's the way it is. They're going to get them replaced for free. It's one of those things where this is happening all over the United States. He says he's heard about it happening in other cities, all over the United States, and everybody has bought them from, there's a couple of companies that are supplying these, I guess. What happens is there is a some kind of phosphor coating over the LED. The LED actually puts out a very blue light like that, almost close to the ultraviolet range. And what it does, it illuminates the phosphorus, very similar to how the ultraviolet from, arcing the mercury in a fluorescent tube, excites the coating on the outside, the dust coating, whatever stuff is. I had it in my brain just a second ago now. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, that phosphor coating anyway, there's a phosphor coating that's failing on those lamps, and that's what's causing it to turn blue. It's actually turning back to just the color of the LEDs. And like I said, it's happening all over the United States. So I went on Google, and sure enough, there's a lot of stories, of this happening all over.
Now, that's really interesting. I wouldn't even have thought of that as, I never once thought that that's how the lights work. But, we've got those same kind of lights in our warehouse and that. So it doesn't surprise me, I guess. But it is interesting that it has that phosphorus thing, I guess, to make the light more uniform and in all directions. That's cool. I'm glad you looked into it. Did they think you were nuts by asking those questions?
W5FC.
I don't know, and I didn't really care. It's one of those things where, the guys at work just know I'm that way. I'll ask a question about anything to anybody. And that's the way you find out stuff. I found out the neatest stuff just by asking somebody. Anyway, but, I knew there was a coating on LEDs to give them a certain color enhancement, but I had no clue that all that white was coming from an LED that only puts ultraviolet or that really, really purplish light.
NV5F.
NV5S, go ahead.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic. A friend of mine and I were driving around a couple weeks ago, and we're both trying to figure out, because those things have shown up like over the past year. I've started seeing, just one every now and then. It'll be this weird purplish, like delicate purple, and then there'll be one that's like really ultraviolet, and then there'll be one that's like blue, and it sounds to me like they're supposed to have a phosphorus coating on the inside to make them the right color, and the coating is just defective, like they didn't put it in or something, and they're coming out their original color, and that makes a lot of sense, because I was like, why would anyone make street lights that color? They mess up your night vision, they keep people from sleeping right, anyway, so I just still had the radio on and heard y'all talking about it, and that makes a lot of sense. There was a whole row of those lights on a place where, my family and I drive near where we live, and I noticed the other night when we drove past there, they were all back to normal. They had changed them all, so that makes sense that there's just like a quality control issue, I guess, in V5F.
Yep, is this Virginia?
It is in V5F.
Oh, we're going to have to make sure you get a bozo alert hat now. Anyway, yeah, that's the deal. And I said when I looked at it on Google, there's actually some people, these happen in some areas where the phosphorus just deteriorated, and they turn purple like that, and they're super neat looking. And some people actually like them.
I think the color's kind of cool, but I don't think they're very conducive to doing their job. So anyway, I'll jump out of here. I know you and Tom were having a discussion about this, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents in V5F.
All right, Virginia, you got good hearing you, and like I said, this was just basically for information, and the conversation is open.
Yeah, I agree. We're just yapping about stuff. So, at any rate, I'm going to go watch Lost in Space for about 15 minutes. I'm going to head to bed. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to try. Tomorrow's going to be an interesting day for me. I'm going to try and run 13 miles, which will be the first time. I've done 11 on trails, no less, but I've never done 13. So we'll see how that goes. KE5 ICX.
Well, I know it goes without saying, but we're all rooting for you.
Yeah, thank you. There's a buddy actually somebody I met at the Irving Marathon. What was it? A couple of months, well, month and a half ago, and so we hooked up on Strava, which is sort of like Facebook, only for people who do sports stuff. So running is a common one. He went and did his half marathon finally, and we're about at the same skill level, except he's 20 years younger than me. So well, fine, be that way. I don't care. So I thought, I think I'm pretty close to it. So I've been doing I checked all the matrix and everything, and it's not a far leap for me to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. That'll be in 3 weeks. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think I'll do fine. I got a 10K coming up, which is 6 miles in 2 weeks, and then the following weekend after that, 3 weeks, will be the half marathon. So I think been doing this now for a year, so I think I'm ready. Looking forward to it. KE5ICX.
Cool beans. Good luck with that, and I'll keep an eye on the internet and watch your postings.
Yeah, thank you, John. And again, congratulations. You get to stay home. You don't have to go to Oklahoma anymore. I'm probably going to work for another couple of 3 years. Is my plan. We'll see if that all works out. So, I don't know how old you are, but we're probably pretty close to the same age. But I'm going to hang on. I finally got into a job and doing things that I really enjoy. Right at the end of my career, doing something I really like. So we'll wait it out a little bit. Plus, I think 67 is the age for full benefits, and then 70. I don't want to go to 70. I don't think it will be that fun all the way at 70. But I'll probably retire at 57, just 3 years off.
Yeah, I'm doing the 71 because I want all the money I can possibly get. And after that, it doesn't make any difference. So I figured, okay, we'll push it to that.
Well, you finally made it, and that's the good part about it. So enjoy your retirement. Hopefully, you get to do some things you want to do here in Dallas. I mean, travel, over hill and dale and all that. But at any rate, all right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go watch Lost in Space with I can't remember the Android machine. No, damn, I can't remember the name of this episode, and I should know. All right, see you later. This is KE5ICX. Clear.
That's the first sign, man. Yeah, hey, and after that, is it after that or maybe one more after that? I forget. Well, it's time tunnel after that, and then you get to watch, what's the alien one? You know what I mean. Invaders.
Yeah, they run them all night long, so but I won't be awake then. Gotta get up early. Well, earlier. Took a couple of naps, so I got about 3 hours worth of naps today, so I feel pretty good, but I still gotta go to bed. I really am out of here now. Bye. KE5ICX.
I'm glad I could catch up with you. 33's dude, Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey.